Welcome to the podcast, Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage, where it's all about discovering the thoughts that get you in the mood, the thoughts that get you out of the mood, and how creating a deeper connection with yourself creates a deeper connection with your spouse. I'm your coach, Shelly Anderson, coaching you through life, love, and intimacy. This is episode number 185. The sultry sexiness of stopping to smell the roses. Ooh, yeah. So why are we talking about this? Okay, so we're getting close to Valentine's Day. And if you go into any stores, you're probably going to see or notice a lot of flowers. And probably in particular, roses. And this got me thinking about this phrase that probably most of us have heard about stopping to smell the roses. And I was like, oh, yes, I really do like this phrase, especially when it comes to intimacy. Because often what is happening is when a couple has been married, either in the beginning phases of their sexual relationship or in the middle, something usually happens where we end up focusing very heavily on the destination of that sexual experience, right? The orgasm, the pleasure. And what often happens is there is something that is missed when we do that. And a lot of times women, when they come to me, or a couple, when they come to me and they're struggling, this is often what will show up, is that we are spending a lot of time focusing on this final destination of the orgasm, and we are skipping over the journey of what it means to actually get to the orgasm. And it reminds me that we are not stopping to smell the roses. And so what does this phrase actually mean? Well, this phrase is a reminder that we need to actually make the conscious decision to stop some of the busyness in our lives, to stop the rush, to stop the quick pace of everything. Sometimes we need to actually make the decision to relax a bit, to slow things down on purpose, because there is going to be a purpose in doing so. And that as we do so, that there is going to be an end result that we actually enjoy. That final destination can become even more enjoyable and more fulfilling, more pleasurable when we do this. But if we just say, oh, just stop and smell the roses, and we don't have any real purpose or intention behind that, or really don't understand what that means, then maybe that final destination isn't going to be as good as it could be. So part of stopping and smelling the roses on our way to this final destination of orgasm means that we are going to actually appreciate the beauty of life, of our bodies, of the opportunities that are available to have a sexual relationship with our spouse. And we're going to pay attention to those things. When we get so focused on just the final destination and just having the orgasm, we don't pay attention. We can skip and gloss over or miss a lot of this beauty that this phrase is actually inviting us to seek out and experience. And so when we're able to think about this phrase, especially when we see flowers, when we see roses, it can be that reminder of, hey, slow things down and pay more attention to the actual experience. Now, one of the things that couples will often bring to me is that we are struggling, maybe the wife is struggling to have an orgasm, right? So we end up spending so much time and energy and focus on this destination of having the orgasm that we neglect to realize that there are actually precursor steps that aid and facilitate having an orgasm, especially for women. There are prerequisites. And so when we spend too much time focused on this destination, something negative, a few negative things end up happening. One is that we create super high expectations that is like the main focus, the only focus of the sexual relationship. So we create these really high expectations that the orgasm is the end all be all, and we need to have that happen all the time, every time, and it needs to happen in a certain way, right? A lot of expectations come when this is our focus. Also, what comes with it is a pressure to perform, maybe in a certain way. Maybe we feel like we have to perform in a way that will help our spouse feel like it's actually better than it is, right? We might have to do a little faking. And in that process, we can become very much out of our own body, right? We get very much in our heads. This is especially true for women. And we end up rushing the process when we're only focused on the destination of that orgasm. And what's interesting is that when we do spend so much time and focus and energy on the orgasm, it often makes it harder for women to have an orgasm, right? Because we haven't put in those prerequisites. We haven't slowed our bodies down. We haven't actually paid attention to what is happening with our body. And if we haven't done those things, you know what's probably happening with our body? Not much. For the husbands, there might be a lot happening with their body. But for the women, if we haven't paid attention to the journey and the prerequisites, it could be that nothing is happening with our body. We could never even be entering into the phase of arousal. And so what ends up happening is if we don't go into that arousal phase where our body physically gets ready for intercourse, then we don't enjoy it. It makes the orgasm harder to achieve. It feels very frustrating for both the wife and the husband. And then it makes everyone think like something is very wrong, probably with the wife. And so if we are not able to enter into the phase of arousal, we're not able to have an orgasm that's enjoyable. Maybe it's forced, or there's not a lot of lubrication. And so there's a lot of friction, but not in a good way. It's actually painful and it's hurting. Then what ends up happening is that we don't enjoy the experience, right? We don't activate the pleasure part of the brain that goes, yes, awesome. Let's come back for more of that tomorrow, right? Let's circle back around. That doesn't happen. It doesn't take place. And so we end up with a lower desire to be intimate. Okay. So what do? We need to really take advantage of this phrase, to stop and smell the roses. This means that just as much as the world puts a huge emphasis and focus on this fast, hot and heavy, quick sexual experience that is pretty much focused on the orgasm, we need to really flip the script a bit and say, hey, we've got to spend some time on the journey of getting there. What are these prerequisites? What's involved? What is the process of becoming aroused and ready for sex? What is the journey like when we actually prepare a woman's body to experience sex in a way that's enjoyable, that's fun and amazing and definitely pleasurable? What's that process like? Now, if we are slowing down the entire process, this journey of getting to the destination of the orgasm, this does mean that we get to stop and use our senses, right? Stop and smell the roses. Smelling is saying, hey, I'm going to pay attention to my senses. I'm going to use the sense of smell to smell this flower, to smell this rose. And as we inhale and breathe in the smell of the rose, we are able to have a different experience than if we never did that at all, right? Being able to look at a rose is one experience. Being able to touch a rose is another. Being able to smell a rose is yet another. Being able to feel the rose, that goes along with touch, actually. So being able to stop and say, hey, I'm going to include my senses actually allows our brain to get involved as well as our body, and both in a positive way. This is very exciting for women, and our bodies are begging for this experience. We don't realize it, but our bodies actually want this experience. Our bodies are craving and longing for something more than just this fast 2-minute wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. We want to enjoy the sexual experience. And so being able to say, hey, let's put some more time back in on this journey, on the arousal, on the senses. Ooh, that's very sexy. That's very sexy. And so sometimes we don't even know that we haven't been doing that, or that's an option, right? Especially in today's world, the media really focuses on this 2-minute experience. And if that's all we are exposed to and have been taught, then we don't even know any better. We're just uninformed. We're missing this vital information. And so we really need to absorb this information and apply it. Now, I'm sure we've also heard another phrase that goes something like this. There are many roads to Rome. Ooh, I sure love this phrase, because we can get very stuck, both husbands and wives, in all aspects of our lives, thinking that there's only one way to do something, or that our way is the only way, or that it's the best way, or the superior way, or the most efficient way. And I really want us to consider this option that there are many roads that get us to our destination, many roads. And for intimacy, this can become very exciting. Why take the same road to get to orgasm every time? Why do that? Why would we limit ourselves to just one experience when it comes to intimacy? So I love being able to incorporate this phrase, this idea that there are many roads to get to the orgasm. Female arousal is not linear as far as like, hey, just do this one thing and your woman is aroused. When I talk about these prerequisites, there are quite a few, but they're like a mix and match. It's like a recipe. But we can change this recipe up, or the recipe that works on Monday might not work for Tuesday. And we're going to need a whole nother salsa recipe to spice things up. This is very exciting. And there are benefits to this, right? Because this can really keep us out of boredom. But if we're never doing this, then women can easily get bored. We can get bored of the 2-minute wham, bam, thank you, ma'am experience. Our husbands may enjoy it, and that's great for them. But women can get very bored of that if the journey is ignored time after time. We can become bored very easily. And so there are many roads that can lead to orgasm, right? Many ways for the woman to be aroused. And I hope that the husbands would find this also very exciting and interesting, because this means your sex life, as you jump on board this concept of stopping to smell the roses and embarking on this journey with your wife, that it will also not lead to a sex life that's boring for you. So as we embrace this concept of stopping to smell the roses, this can increase the excitement, the newness, the adventure, and the fun of having an intimate relationship with your spouse, right? We don't have to just like say, well, we'll just get through this, right? We don't have to just submit to the boring and the mundane. We can really seek and take the initiative to involve the senses and have that adventure, have that enjoyment. And so this is exciting. On my bucket list is to go to Italy. I love seeing pictures of all the different little streetways and boulevards and avenues, and they all feel very unique and intriguing and inviting to me. Whenever I see them, I'm like, I want to walk on that street, right? Because they all offer something that has like similar concepts, right? You can see a lot of the flowers on these streets. You can see sometimes little cafes or even the different types of cobblestones that line the streets. But with each one that I look at, I'm like, yeah, but this one feels different. This one looks different. It has, this one street has this type of flowers and this other street has this different arrangement of flowers. So they each offer different experiences, but at the end, they're all going to get you into, let's say, the main plaza of the city. And so if we can think of our intimate experience in a similar way, this can be very, very fulfilling. And so I wonder if we can start to incorporate this concept into our intimate lives. So the journey of getting to the orgasm is actually pretty orgasmic. But we're not ever taught this. This is like knowledge that is often not discussed. Sometimes we hear the phrase, men are like a microwave and women are like a slow cooker or an oven, right? And we're just like, oh, it just takes longer to get there. We're missing the point of that, right? We're kind of missing the point, is that being able to take the time allows the body, the female body, to become alive to the sexual experience. It allows all of the nerve endings to awaken and get fired up. If we skip all that, oh my gosh, like the women are missing out on a very orgasmic experience. The more nerve endings we can fire up before we get to the orgasm, man, that orgasm is going to be much more pleasurable. Why would we skip out on that? Why are we skipping out on this? Let's not do this. Let's really try to have a different mindset and say, yes, the journey to the orgasm is orgasmic. A lot of times women, if we put enough of these prerequisites in before we even get to the orgasm, like by the time we get to that part, we're ready to go. The orgasm is easy. Very easy to get to, uncomplicated. We're fully lubricated. Yes. Everything is dialed in, ready to roll. The journey to the orgasm can be so pleasurable that sometimes we can have the orgasm before we even get to the orgasm. Do we know that this is possible? It is. But a lot of times these things are never discussed, let alone taught. But we really need to tap into the excitement of the journey of stopping to smell the roses and putting the senses back in the mix. Hey, we do need to involve our senses. Now, I want to say, for all the husbands and men listening to this, women, your wife could get very turned on when she sees you slowing things down and saying, hey, let's stop and smell the roses. Let's put some things into this mixture that involve your senses. Let's involve all the senses so we can awaken the skin, awaken the nerve endings, and allow our dormant desire to come to play. Right? This experience is so fun for women. This experience is what makes us go, yeah, I want to come back for more of that. That was amazing. But when we keep skipping this journey, it's no wonder that women are like, well, what's the big deal? Right? Only 4 nerve endings were fired up during that orgasm. And I want, 12,000 of my nerve endings to be fired up. We're missing some of those nerve endings to be ignited. And so when a woman is able to see her husband pay attention to those things, ooh, that is sexy. She can get very turned on as her husband's like, yeah, I want to join you on that journey. And I want to put some fun things into that journey for you, knowing that he will benefit from doing so. So husbands, I hope you will take the initiative to enjoy the journey, focus on the journey, spend some time in the journey. This is what foreplay is all about. Foreplay is fun. And for all the wives listening, if your husband doesn't know about this, if he's not listening to this podcast, you can do this for yourself. There is no need to wait around. You can advocate for yourself, either verbally and communicating this, or just by putting things into the experience that allow you to slow down, to stop and smell the roses, to get all your senses involved, to allow your brain and your body to pay attention to what's going on, to really experience intimacy. We can do this for ourselves. And as we do so, I want both husbands and wives to understand that putting those things in to the experience enhances the orgasm. It doesn't take away from it. It enhances it. And so that is a win-win, right? That is a win-win. Here is kind of like a little side effect that we may not even know could take place. The more we are able to put stopping and smelling the roses into the experience, right? The more we're able to incorporate the senses, slow things down, allow our brain and our body to get on board, the more that we're able to actually do that, usually the easier it becomes for the wife to enjoy the fast, the hot and the heavy 2-minute wham bam thank you ma'am experience. But we don't know that yet. Nobody's ever taught us that. The more we get our needs met, our arousal requirements for the female body met on a consistent basis, the more easier it is for women to jump into spontaneous arousal, the kind that men experience. This is exciting news. Women want to experience spontaneous arousal. It's just not the natural type of arousal that most women experience. We wish we did, but just wishing it doesn't make it happen, right? But what I have found with myself, with my clients, is that the more we focus on female arousal, the kind that has specific requirements, the receptive and the responsive arousal, the more easily they are able to enjoy that spontaneous arousal with their husbands. Awesome. So women are able to experience 2 types of arousals. The more that we start putting in and actually including her arousal in the process and experience. This is amazing. This is amazing information. So, in case you don't know, there are about 6 categories of ways to arouse a woman and her body. If you don't know what those are, you need to get onto my website and sign up for my master course on this, right? The intimacy effect, intimacy beyond sex. We dive into this, right? We explore them in detail. And if you don't know what the intimacy trek is and the sequence that actually allows a woman and her body to go into full arousal and enjoy orgasm, if you can't tell me how many steps there are and name those steps, you need to take the course. It is information that is vital and necessary and is definitely missing out in the world. The little information that is out there is still presented as very confusing, very, very confusing. So what I love about this is that not only as we stop and smell the roses is the husband's arousal still totally included in the experience, but now we are totally including the female arousal system instead of excluding it, which is pretty much what is taught out in the world. So let's do this, because as we do, the wife and women will be able to enjoy the journey. They will be able to enjoy the sex. They will be able to enjoy the orgasm. And heaven forbid, they were going to say, hey, you know what? I liked that. I think I'm going to want some more. And that is a really good place to be. So I wonder if we can do that this next week. As you're seeing all the Valentine's Day things come up and all the sales, right? All the flowers. We all know that there's a lot of flowers being advertised around Valentine's Day. Let that be a reminder to stop, smell the roses, slow things down, pay more attention to your senses and how it can invigorate and enliven your body so that your sexual experience can feel more complete, so that it can feel like a connecting and a bonding experience. And so that you can say, yes, this is what it's all about. Yes, I get it. Yes, let's have some more of that. Because remember, the more you restore this type of intimacy with yourself, the more you can restore it with your spouse. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you will join me again next week.